right, everyone. Hello, Dr. Bryan here with my good buddy JC Ruddy here. And we're just going to be chatting up a storm about the financial house with the H60 Lifestyle program. And you guys, which is really cool, you guys get to be like kind of like a fly on the wall and listen to two dudes just chat. Now, I have some notes that I have done that basically I'm getting older, so I gotta write shit down so I don't forget it like I used to. And JC has some bullet points he wanted to go over, but I really think you guys are going to find this show really interesting, and it's going to be a kind of an umbrella show where it's going to apply to the masses, and you can pick and choose parts or take the whole thing and kind of take and run with it. So my guest is JC. I met him at the gym, and I've known him for a little while now. He's in our hometown here.
Yep.
And you're the regional vice president?
Yeah, I'm a regional vice president here in Altoona under Primerica's umbrella.
Very cool.
Primerica's a company I work under, and yeah, so I own my office here in town.
Nice. Well, I've been to your office and chatted with you a few times, and I said you've got to get on the show because a lot of the viewers out there, you know, the part of the H60 Lifestyle program, and as you guys know, it is not just a diet program. It's lifestyle because, you know, just say we are. I always reverse this. I always say, you know, you talk about the millionaire that's in horrible shape, but it goes the other way too. You can have a great relationship and you can have the best body in the world, but your financial house is in ruin. You're eating ramen noodles on a park bench.
Yep.
I mean, that's no way to live. That doesn't become what I think God intended you to be. You're the best version of yourself. Right. And I think by having all your houses in line, maybe not 100% up to par because it's life. Well, I don't know if we'll ever get there. There's always lessons. But having a base is huge. So with the house, I was doing some research on the computer, and did I read this right? Like a little over 60% of Americans have less than $1,000 in the savings account.
Yeah, and like an emergency savings or anything like that. In addition to that, what also is very scary is like I think it's less than 45% have more than have at least only 25,000 or less in retirement assets. So savings is a huge problem in America, obviously, you know, with the cost of living going up and just more things at our disposal. Like we can, you know, there's more fast food chains, there's more restaurants, there's more things to go do.
That goes to the health and fitness house too.
Right. You know, so it's like, you know, so people have more opportunities to spend money.
Yeah.
And saving, you know, isn't the most popular thing. Now, I grew up in a town of 2,500 people, one stoplight, 2 restaurants. You know, we ate at home. We didn't really get to go out. I mean, if we went to the movie theater, it was a big deal. But of course, I'm 39 years old. That's changed. More people are moving to the suburbs, and they have more things at their tip of their fingers. So they're not saving as much because a lot of people have the mentality of, I'll get to it. I'll do it later.
Do it tomorrow. Put it off tomorrow. I mean,
just like working out, right?
I don't know what you're talking about. But no, well, I guess that brings up an interesting point. You know, you're older. You're not in your 20s. Right. I'm in my 50s now. So I'm a pre-internet guy. Yeah. I was before it came on. Yeah. And nowadays, some of the kids and the younger folks, they grew up. They can't imagine without an internet. And they're getting all this bombardment by social media. Buy this, buy this, TV. I mean, how easy is Amazon? You think, you click, and it's on your door in 2 days. Mm-hmm. So we become I'm going to air quote, a throwaway society. Instead of fix and use, we throw away and just buy new. So are you seeing the younger generation losing the kind of some of the basis of saving a percentage of their income and just spending and doing the next wave of things?
They call it a buy now, pay later society. Now, a lot of people would want to look at that as I'll buy it on credit, pay for it later. I look at it more of I'm buying this now, but by not saving now, I'm paying later. You know, the average person, this is incredible, the average family buys and sells a house every 4 to 5 years. Okay. I mean, I'll give you, I'm not going to name names, but I have a friend that goes to my church. They just literally less than 4 years ago built a new home. Right. Didn't like one small aspect of the home, sold the home, and granted there might have been some equity there, but now they're building a new home. So, you know, you see more, so whereas my wife and I, you know, we lived in our first home for 11 years. That's not new, that's not normal anymore. It's the gotta have the new. and because you have to have the new car. I mean, I'm 39 years old. I've been making well into six figures for more than a decade. You know what I mean? And I, for the first time in my life, bought a brand new car.
Delayed satisfaction.
Right. I was driving a smaller car, and after my wife and I, we did a few things financially. It actually saved us money to do it, and it made sense. But most people don't think that way. Most people just go get it and then worry about how to make it work later, and that's the problem.
Live your dreams now and don't. But
because of perception.
Well,
perception's
true,
a problem,
especially on social media.
Because of social media, it's caused this problem where it's better to be perceived a certain way than really to be that person. And I think that's what's interesting about what we're doing here is you're trying to create an overall better person that is in I don't say in love, but is happy with themselves.
Right.
That they don't need to go get these false sense of accomplishments, this false sense of happiness.
Right.
That's the problem.
I agree. And you mentioned something earlier when we first started talking, and we were talking about the percentage that don't have a savings account, and you said something about an emergency fund. Now, is that different than a savings account? And what is that definition of?
Yeah, because an emergency savings is, okay, do I have enough money that if something that you need to have, they say on average 6 to 8 months of your income, your monthly income times 6 in an account that if the car breaks down, the washer breaks down, whatever, that, okay, or you lose your job or whatever, something like that happens, that you're okay for at least 6 months. So you're not falling into credit debt, right? You're not falling into consumer credit, which is credit cards. So that's what emergency savings is.
And that's not like if the new pair of jeans come on sale
right.
to go get that right now, or a movie out. That's not that.
That's your first line of savings. I would say your second line of savings is, okay, I'm saving up for a trip, a car, or if you want to have a savings that, I want those jeans, I can pay cash for them versus putting on my credit card.
Right.
That's the second. There's multiple ways of savings, but you need to have that emergency savings that, okay, if something dramatically happens, I'm okay financially.
Hot water heater goes,
right.
I'm covered.
I mean, that's usually the thing I deal with, because a lot of times there's people that have also retirement savings, like an IRA or a 401k, and because they don't have those emergency savings, when something drastic like that happens, or the car breaks down, the engine blows, they call me up and they say, hey, we need to take out of our IRA. Well, there's consequences to doing that.
Right.
There's penalties, there's taxes, versus an emergency savings is not in a qualified tax-deferred penalty, pulling out account.
Well, not to mention your 70-year-old future self's going, wait, don't do that. I'm going to need that.
Right.
Okay, well, yeah, because I have friends and family that they're wanting to do certain things. They're like, I'm just going to tap into my 401k right now and use that for investment. I'll make money on the investment and I'll put it back into 401k.
Sure.
You think that's a good plan or no?
No, I think it depends on the person. I don't want to say that's, I don't think there's one size fits all for anything you do. I think there's people that are smart that are, are going to use certain funds to like either to invest and make them more money or to save the money, but then also the same thing. This is where maybe I differ a little bit with the Dave Ramsey aspect of things. Is I also believe you can use debt good debt to hedge or to help you get a better return over here. Give you an example, not to try to get off the subject of savings,
right.
But there's somebody that says, okay, I want to go buy a brand new truck. That's $60,000, let's say. I have $60,000 sitting in an interest-bearing account. Well, a lot of people have also been programmed that debt is bad, and I believe there is such thing as good debt and bad debt.
Okay.
For example, a mortgage isn't bad debt because it's an appreciating asset, and right now with interest rates the way they are, I mean, you can get a 30-year fixed loan at like now they should, because of the interest rates times we're in. It might be changing in a few months, but at like 2%.
I mean, it's almost like free money.
Right. So like you're basically paying very little interest. Okay, so somebody would say, well, I have $60,000 sitting in a mutual fund account that's averaging 7, 8, 9%. Well, I'll take that money. It's not IRA, but it's just sitting there. I'll go buy a $60,000 car. Well, our truck. Well, let's think about this for a second. Granted, vehicles are depreciating assets,
right.
First of all. Second of all, if you could get a brand new vehicle at 0% interest, and you have this $60,000 sitting in an interest-bearing account that's making you, let's say, 10% a year. I'll use that as an example.
Yep, that's
Just
conservative.
So that's $6,000 a year.
Yep.
And a car payment or a truck payment or a van payment or whatever is $350, $400. I think the average car payment is about anywhere from $350 to just under $400. That's average.
Yep.
So above average is $450 to, or maybe $500. I can't remember. I just looked at this yesterday. So let's just assume that you can get a truck payment or a car payment at $350 or 0% interest. So let's say that so if you paid that off, let's just say you took that money and paid it off. You're even at 2% on a car loan.
Right.
You're losing if you're getting 10% over here.
You're pulling from one to get the other.
You're losing 8% interest because you're to pay off to save 2% on the loan.
Right.
So does it make sense to go, okay, I'll just where this is making me 10%, does it make more sense to just go pay an extra 3%, keep the money sitting here yielding you 10% because you're 7%
right,
up
and
there.
don't touch this nest.
But
and again, that's individual. That's where you come in and look at the whole picture.
Because the person as well that has that 60,000 sitting there has obviously made some good decisions.
Yep, to get it, yeah.
So they would kind of understand that too. It's the ones that come into inherited wealth and other wealth that I really have to kind of
the lotto syndrome.
Right. No, seriously. I mean, they said, I can't remember the number, but I think it's the overwhelming majority of people that win the lottery become broke within I think it's like 7 to 10 years.
It's a mindset.
Bankrupt broke.
It is a mindset. I mean, and I think that there's something that switches the flip when you get to a certain point in your life. Is that, oh, I get it now. Here's kind of what I need to do. So one of the things I guess I wanted to ask. So would you advise someone that's struggling, that's working, maybe they just got back to work, to start, and they're starting to get a little bit of money ahead? What would your first thing do? Start an emergency fund, start a savings, a CD? Would you have them start investing right away? What would you tell the average listener starting out?
Yeah, I think you said the first thing is definitely the first. I would, if I start getting ahead, the immediate thing for people to do that I've seen is let's start paying off debt, and I get that justification.
Yep.
I would say start putting. Actually, I would look at the situation really. Again, it's not a cookie cutter kind of deal. And say, okay, how much money do we have up and beyond? Meaning, can we start putting some away and at the same time stacking debt to pay that down too? Because by paying off debt, that's going to free up more cash. And how quickly can we pay off that debt while we're putting away that emergency savings? Because if we pay this down faster, now we can chuck more money in there. So it could be both.
Okay.
It could be both. Again, it depends on the situation. But I definitely think you should start by putting some into emergency savings.
And we're talking $20 a month, $50 a month. I mean, whatever you can. Anything's better than nothing.
And even if this is going to sound really simple. Even if it's as simple as putting your change in a jar every day at the end of the day. But eventually, at the end of the week or the month, you need to take that change and put it to switch it to cash, and then put it in your mutual fund into an investment. Or a small, or even just a savings account at the bank too.
Well, I've
some
been
sort
using,
of small interest-bearing account.
It's funny you mentioned that. I've been using Acorns, where they get the card, and I have it where it rounds up. So if I spend $1.20 something on something, it rounds it up to $2, and it takes that change and it will actually invest it in mutual funds and all the other stuff. Well, I've been doing this for 2 years, and I have over $800 invested just on change of the roundups. Yep. I mean, you mentioned change. It does add up, especially if I'm assuming some banks will even do that, and credit cards and everything else.
And that's another thing too. That's another reason if you can use cash too.
Yeah. Versus
a card, unless you're using the Acorn app. If you're using cash, it also limits your spending too, because we don't look at a debit card as cash. We don't just swipe it and you're good. Right. But if you have $200 in your pocket and you spend $10, you can see visually. You can see that you have $190 now.
So that's where I got to start switching over, because I have very little cash. If someone robs me, they're going to be very disappointed because I don't have a lot of cash on me. But I do know that I'm a lot more conscientious of the spending and what I'm doing if I'm paying for cash. I can tell you that.
And that's kind of also, again, your case would be that you've been very good with what you're very educated and you're conscious of spending. The majority of people, per the statistics, aren't.
Yeah.
It's like the majority of people consistent with their diets, like me, who needs to get more consistent, working out, stuff like that. It's the fundamentals that if you're excited about a goal, the fundamentals in money, in relationships, in your spiritual life, in your whatever it is, the fundamentals are boring. But if you have goals and you're trying to accomplish, it can get very exciting. So, but there's people that are goal oriented, and that's what we're trying to do, is encourage people that you need to start focusing on the little things. That a guy like you had said, well, you don't have a problem with that. Whereas there's somebody that, you know, is always broke, always like, I can't pay my electrical bill. That's a problem.
Right. Either live below your means more, or do extra thing to bring more money in until you can then start developing a habit.
And if we're talking to somebody that's watching this, that's going to watch this or is watching this like this, it's important to know that it's not bad to ask for help.
No.
I think that's the biggest fear that stops people from getting to the next level, is saying, hey, look, I don't know how to do this. I'm struggling with this because, again, the perception of how are you going to view me? Are you going to judge me? Because with social media, everybody's judged anymore.
I was just going to say, it's non-judgmental when you, well, like someone can come to you and say, hey, brother, you know, I'm a physician. I got that, but man, I am up to debt in my eyeballs and I'm going down. I don't know how to do this. And no one taught. They don't teach us this.
Right.
So there is no shame in that. I mean, it takes courage to come. I mean, I would feel more empathetic toward a person that had the courage to come to me to help them than someone that didn't, just kept failing to do it on their own. I mean, there's no way I would think down on
You know, somebody told me a long time ago in business, he said, don't let your ego keep you broke. And people, they're too proud. I tell you, my father is a prime example. My dad worked hard for many years, and he did a lot for me as an athlete. I was a 4-sport athlete in high school, captain of all 4 sports, All-State 3 athlete of the year, played Division I football. And my dad did everything he could to. He bought me my first car, brand new 1992, not brand new, it was used, 1992 Camaro, 25th anniversary, white and red racing stripes, Z350 LT1 engine. He did a lot of that stuff around the way, but I find out later in life, my dad borrowed against his 401k to buy me that car. You know, because it was a perception thing.
Right.
Later in life, my dad would not ask for help. He was trying to rob Peter to pay Paul in so many ways that, you know, now, you know, down the road, I mean, there's not much there, and you know, and it's not a bad thing. I always tell my dad, I said, look, you know, my sisters and I, we're your legacy. We're going to take care of you and all that stuff too. There's nothing to be shameful about that. But
100%.
But it's just a prime example. I was telling my sister about this, that of your pride getting in the way of you asking for real help, and that's what people do.
I'll give you an example. High school dropout. I was the first one in the family to even go to college. I was a high school dropout, went back, and I finished the degree, and I got my doctoral degree. And being a doctor, when I first came out, I mean, I could almost write a check to myself. The banks were just wanting to give money.
Right.
And I thought, being a doctor, I got the title, I got to have this lifestyle. We got this $500,000 ranch and like 3 Corvettes and Harley. I mean, it was the ego thing. I thought that's what we did. And first time we ever had money and credit, and woof. And then it all went to hell in a handbasket. You know, in 2008.
Right.
We were living way beyond our means.
Right.
And I had a lot of what's called the dark night of the souls. You know, but it was a lesson, and I don't think anything is a failure in life if you learn from it. I think life happens for us and not to us if we look at it that way. And I learned a lot. I learned to live below the means, and we are a lot more happier now. So now you and I were talking a little bit before this. You mentioned something about a foundation, that investment. And you correct me. That someone starting investment is not the first layer.
No, it's.
Can you expand that?
Yeah, so like, you know, I was kind of explaining to Bryan about how, you know, to build a financial house, it's like building a regular house. You have the foundation. I mean, you think about placing a house on just with no foundation, no slab. You're just putting the wood down, the frames down on just a plat of ground, right? Whatever. Eventually, there's no foundation there. If the wind comes, it's going to blow that thing over because nothing's holding it to the ground, or it's not level, right? Well, you have to have a foundation, right? You can have the nicest roof in town, But if you have the worst foundation, that thing's going to crumble.
Looks good on the surface, but
right. And that's where we talk about, at least in my organization, where we talk about the first thing you need to get in place is a form of income protection, which is life insurance. And we believe term life insurance is the only way. I would never tell you to buy whole life insurance or cash. Any form of cash for life insurance, in my opinion, is a bad investment. So I would start with a low-cost term life insurance plan, because here's why. If you are saving in your 401k, you are paying off debt, you have the best debt plan, you have the best savings plan, but you don't have any any income protection.
Right.
If you die tomorrow and you just started this great plan where you're putting away $1,000 a month and you're paying off all your debt, and you die tomorrow and you're married with 4 little kids like I am, how good is that? Is that plan even going to work at that point?
Right.
That savings plan, that debt plan. That's why you've got to have 7 to 10 times the amount of your annual income as far as income replacement goes, right? So that if you do pass away, your family's not hurting. Too many examples are husband and wife, both have jobs, they have kids, and they're saving in 401ks, they're paying off debt. Nobody expects to die. Do you know when you're going to die?
No.
We expect to die. I'm saying we're all going to die. That's certain.
Yeah, no one's getting out of here alive.
However, we don't know the exact date. If we did, I think we'd have a little more sense of urgency, right?
Yeah,
Nobody has that.
Right.
So it's not the most, again, it's the fundamentals. It's not the most attractive thing to say, well, I'm going to invest 50, 60, 80, $100 a month, depending upon what your need is, in a life insurance policy. Most people go, what if I took that 100 and started investing it into a mutual fund? I get that. However, if you had $1 million life insurance policy, how many years is it going to take for you to put that $100 a month away to build $1 million?
Right.
So you've got to have that as your foundation, and then you move on to emergency savings. Then you move on to debt planning, and then you move on to retirement planning. And that's just that goes. Most people do that the opposite way. They go, don't get me wrong. I believe, depending on the situation, if you're getting a 401k that they match you money and you can, I would say do that. I'm not saying don't do that.
Right.
Because you're giving away free money.
But as soon as I become get a little bit ahead, don't become a day trader all at once.
Right.
Make sure my foundation is there.
Get your foundation. And outside of work too. So this is what we found out in the last year, because we're in 2021 now, or March. A year ago, the most Googled question this time last year was how to buy life insurance.
Yeah, with the COVID, yeah.
We had a pandemic happen. People worried about dying. We thought everyone's going to die. So what also changed, well, that was one thing. When people started losing jobs, they started losing corporate benefits. See, a lot of reasons why people aren't saving money is because we've been relying too much on our employers to take care of us versus us taking the responsibility to take care of ourselves.
That's a huge shift right now. That's a huge mental shift people have got to get over. They really do. Yep. They really do. Now, you had some bullet points, too, that you wanted to cover. If you wanted to expand on
I think the main thing was, I'll just kind of wrap, we'll use it as a talking point, but the first one is, we've already alluded to this, was you have to find a coach. You have to find someone, just like in health, fitness, or spirituality. I mean, I think you need to have people that they have more resources than you. They have more of a general understanding there. So I think in money and finance, a lot of people, because of pride, want to go, I'll just take care of it. No, you need to have a coach.
I watch YouTube. I know what I'm doing.
Right. You can YouTube it and figure it out. So you might do a pretty good job. However, like a guy like me, I'm not just the only resource. I have resources that have resources that have resources. That are multi-millionaires, they manage millions and millions and billions of dollars that can teach us stuff that you can maybe find the information.
Take a lifetime.
But now you're spending time away from what your craft is.
Right.
You know what I mean? Your job, your craft, your expertise is in this area. Let somebody else work in that area. Number two is people have to change their thinking about money and what it gives you. And we talked about this. I think we've talked about this in the beginning. There's emotional spending. I wrote down here, being happy versus being content. You talk about it as
it's a play on words, but it's a huge meaning. I mean, it's vast. Yeah. I
mean, so many people and you look at what H60 is about. I call it somewhat of the core four, which would mean your relationships, your spirituality, your health, and your money. There's more to it than that. To become a well-rounded, I hate to say well-rounded, but a person that is happy with themselves and who they're becoming versus the false sense of happiness of I bought this, I ate this, I did this weekend. And you see it on social media.
It's superficial. I mean,
it's not real life, right?
Right.
And so a lot of people have emotional spending habits because they're down the dumps.
Yeah.
It makes sense. Let's go out to dinner and spend $100. But they don't have $100 to do it.
credit card.
Right.
Yeah.
Or I'm gonna go buy some new clothes, and they don't have the money to do it. So now their electrical bill's not getting paid, or there's no gas in the car, or God forbid their kids get sick and they can't pay their copay or the whatever it is. So there's something to be said for being content with where you're at, and that's why I think a lot of people get they overspend is because of that.
You mean because every entrepreneur, just because I'm an entrepreneur, doesn't mean I have a Lambo in the garage like everyone on YouTube? Come on.
No, see, and I've learned that. You know, I have a lot of friends that make $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 a year, $1 million a year in my company in this area around there that drive a Honda Civic, and I drove a Chevy Malibu for the last 2 years. It wasn't until I've driven used cars for years that were within my means, and so it wasn't until recently we did a few things, and my wife said I earned it, right? That I get a new car. So yeah, you don't need to have the new car. You don't need to have all that stuff, but I can also afford it. Actually, they say, look, you should only buy a car that you have enough money in your savings account that you could pay it all with one check. And so we're at that point, so that's not a problem.
Right.
But most people,
but you earned that.
Right. A lot of people don't have $100,000 in their checking account or their savings account or their mutual funds, or they might have it in their 401k, but they don't have it outside of that. I mean, now, I'm not saying you should have $100,000 in your checking account either.
Right.
But I'm saying enough money that if you had to write the check, you could do it. So there's that, and that comes to just going eating out. I mean, we're having a conversation, so I'll just tell you. I mean, my oldest daughter's in AAU basketball. Very expensive business to be in.
Yes,
right? I mean, you're talking $1,000 just to start.
Yep.
That's not talking private lessons and so on and so forth. A lot of these families get involved in that, Bryan, and they can write a check for that, but it's stressing them out financially.
Right. What other havoc is that wreaking on the back end that they got to cover?
Yeah. So because there's hotels involved, there's traveling, there's food, there's clothing, there's
a lot of stuff.
There's a lot. I mean, we go on a trip just for a weekend for basketball, and I'm talking we easily spend $400 or $500.
Yeah.
And most people don't have that extra money. I mean, we're blessed that we made some right decisions. We do, but we were also for many years we were content with where we were at. Until because I was approached about this basketball thing 3-4 years ago. I'm like, you want me to spend how much money?
Right.
And I'm like, it's not worth it at that point.
Yep.
But again,
for the sacrifice you have to give up.
This outside of cars, houses, I think we spend too much money on our kids' endeavors at a very young age, and that's also a reason you're not seeing people save money because they're blowing it. Again, not necessarily. There's certainly an aspect of I want my kid to succeed, but I think it's more so I need an environment where I can have fun and enjoy and have a social life.
You mean that $190 pair of shoes that little Johnny has that he's going to outgrow in 2 months?
Right.
Don't do that right now?
No. I had a guy say this. It was interesting. His daughter's on my daughter's team, and he was talking about something. He goes, well, I don't got an extra $3,000-$4,000 sitting around. Do you? And I didn't say nothing. I'm kind of like, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't.
Right. Yeah, 100%.
And it's just, again, it's a mindset, which that's why I go, you've got to change your thinking about money. If you can't afford to do it, if it's going to affect your bills, your bottom line, your electrical, your food, your mortgage, your the stuff that really matters, you shouldn't be doing it.
And that will also, if that does that, as well as I, you're going to have some sleepless nights. Yeah. It's going to bleed into your relationship, your health, everything. So
and that's where we've my wife and I, and again, a lot has to do with what the Bible tells us as well as is being content and all. So we've had a lot of direction from what God's taught us in that area as well, but also hanging around successful people. You realize that some of the most successful people, they can afford nice things, and some of them have nice things, but a lot of them, they're some of the most frugal, some of the most you call them cheap if you want.
Right.
Can I give you an example on that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So my buddy sells workout equipment. He works at Push Pedal Pole.
Right.
And he's a great guy, big into fitness. And I remember this was many years ago, more than 10 years ago. He wanted me to help him deliver an elliptical he was selling. And we pulled, I was like, whatever, dude, I'll jump in the car and go with you in the truck. And I drove his truck, and we went up to this house. We pulled to this big, huge mansion. And he goes, this guy beat me down $1,000 on this machine. He goes, he could easily afford it. He was all set. And I said to him, I said, man, the reason why he's able to live here is because he did that.
Right.
He's not just because you have the money doesn't mean you can just go spend it.
Right.
And that's a mental thing. That's a thinking about money.
It is. It's a huge, and a lot of people, they have the poverty mindset too.
Mm-hmm.
It's a scarcity mindset. Money's everywhere.
Right.
There's a endless flow of money around. You just got to tap into it. And a lot of it, I've come to learn in my personal thing that it's very energetic.
Yep.
There's a big money energy out there, and if you tap into it, it will come to you.
Yeah.
But you got to have that mental. I agree.
Well,
I agree.
and that's where it starts with self-improving. I think that's where, investing in your health and your fitness, because what it does is it gives you energy, and that energy, it flows into so many different areas of your life, your mental,
Yep.
and any time that I don't feel like I'm on track, it's because I'm not eating right, I'm not working out, I'm not investing in my relationships with, especially my wife.
Yep.
And I'm looking more at myself than I'm really looking at, like you said, the energy.
Yep.
Because if you're not investing in other things outside of yourself, you get nothing in return. The world wants you to put it out there so it comes back to you.
Yes.
And there's negative energy you're putting out there, or there's positive energy you're putting out there. And that equates, that comes back to you in every aspect of your life.
What did Einstein say? It's either going to be a friendly universe or an unfriendly universe. It's all up to you.
Well, and so a friend of mine wrote a book called Byproduct. It's called, his name's Ian Pruckner, and they had a concept called T-bar.
Okay.
And it goes thinking, beliefs, action, results. And he makes 7 figures in our company, probably another 7 figures with a lot of stuff he does similar to this. And he's on Clubhouse and all that stuff. And he says he looked at his success after he did it, and he's like, all the success I have was a byproduct of my thinking.
100%.
Because you're thinking positive, whether it be positive or negative, creates a belief,
Yep.
which creates an action, positive or negative, which creates a result.
Yep.
And typically a negative thought creates a negative belief, creates no action, and a negative result. And that's where you find people, especially in money and health,
Yep.
where they're spiraling downward because the negative thought process is creating these negative actions, which are creating bad results, and then those compound just like your money.
Yep.
Bad decisions compound. It's like
Just like good decisions, they compound either way.
remember Vince Lombardi said it best. He says winning is a habit.
Yes. Yeah.
Unfortunately, so is losing.
Yes, it's whatever pattern you're running subconsciously every day.
Subconsciously, right on.
You're gonna have that. You're gonna have that show up in your life every time. Good stuff.
So
Good stuff.
that was one point. I don't know, you cut me off in time. So, I thought a good point was we covered 5 already. I'll cover 4 and 6, and I'll finish with that. But budgeting. We talked about budgeting a little bit. And,
Yep.
And budgeting is good to do, especially. But I think most people do budget the main things: the mortgage payment, the car payment, the insurances, the cell phone, the whatever, the electrical bill. But most people don't budget the fun stuff, the eating out, the extracurricular activities, and that's where they just go spend. And that's where you said earlier gets away from you, because that's the stuff you're not thinking about. It's emotional too. It's emotional.
It is. Well, in
When
business,
in Rome concept.
Well, also in business, it's a thing called overhead creep. I call it. It's those little things. I'll get the extra plan on the thing, or I'll take this guy out to lunch. And in business, overhead creep can add up, but before you know it, it's like, holy cow, what's my overhead? Same thing with, I guess, those other things.
And I think I see that in my business too, with some people that are coming up in business, and why don't you spend money here? Why don't you spend money here? Why are you such a freak about the toner in the copier? I'm like, well, it all costs money, or the thermostat being up or down at night when people leave the office, because the more you spend, it affects your bottom dollar, and you need to look at. I think you should look at life as a business, and what's your profits? I mean, I think it's just really important to budget those things in. I will say this, it kind of creeped in my head, since we're having a conversation. Relationships, my wife and I are a partnership, and I say run your life like a business. I didn't mean that in a negative way, I think, but I do think you need to establish roles.
Right.
My wife and I have done a very good job, and it was, we've been married 14 years this year. We have
Congratulations.
4 kids, right?
Yes.
And our first 5 years of marriage were, I don't want to say they were hell, There was good times, there was bad times.
Now, careful, she might be listening to this.
She can look. She understands
Okay.
that it's very obvious why my first child is 5 years older than my second child. Then we're 2 years in between. It's because we had to establish, we had to learn, and the best way to learn is to find somebody that's already where you're at and copy what they're doing and listen to them.
Yes.
But we had to learn certain things in our relationship, and I'm talking mainly about money, because when my first daughter was born, my wife quit her job. This was also in 2009.
After.
I just became a vice president with the company.
Yep.
My wife quit her job, so it was all on me, and she's now a stay-at-home mom, and I have an extra mouth to feed with diapers and so on and so forth, which caused a lot of strife, a lot of resentment, a lot of arguments. And so, but that also had to do a lot with my thinking about making money, saving money, and her role in the money aspect of we're married. We have one checking account. Well, we have a couple checking accounts, but we're both on the checking account. We don't hide money from each other.
Right.
When we make a financial decision, now my household's a little different. We discuss it. I propose it to her. We discuss it, and then we make the decision together. At the same time, my wife trusts me and allows me to lead the home. Right. But we've established that role. Your household would probably could work differently. I think it's important to establish roles when it comes to money, and roles just in general when it comes to your kids and in your house in general. I think too many people don't communicate about anything.
Right.
They don't have an understanding about anything in their home, and that causes conflict, which causes negativity, which causes
resentment and everything.
And so they're looking for that because of that thing. It causes unhappiness. So what do people do? They go. Case in point, I'm gonna go reconstruct my kitchen. Let's remodel our house together. Let's go buy a new car. Those are temporary fixes to fix what the real problem is, which is you're not happy with. Well, and somebody would say, "Well, I'm not happy in my marriage." No, you're not happy with you.
Right.
They say in marriage, they say it's 50-50. I disagree. I know we're going off a different direction.
Yep.
It's 100-100. You give 100% yourself. He or she gives 100% of themselves, and you both work on yourselves, and you come together with an understanding that you become a power couple.
And you complement each other.
Absolutely.
100%. I can't.
Sorry, that was.
Well, my wife is listening, so I can't deny any of that. I'll talk to you after we get
I'm not good at. I'm not saying I've mastered that by any means. It's something that.
No, it's a learning process.
And we've been blessed to just put a lot of people in our lives that have taught us that in a lot of ways. If you don't mind, I'll go to my last point here.
Go right ahead, and we'll wrap this up.
I feel like I'm talking a lot more than you, but
well, you are the guest.
Okay, great. So the last thing is this: I wrote down living on a fixed income versus making more money or having a side hustle. It says here, people try to fix a budget to fit within their income versus expanding their income. Develop an income that expands your budget. And that's where I think that there's been books written literally that you should have some sort of side, what I call it a spare tire income.
Right.
That you can make more money up and beyond what it takes for you to live, so that you can save it, and that business may turn into a business that can provide for your own family. It's just too many people, because they're not. I see this, and again, these are my opinions. Too many people, they look at they're making money the wrong way if it is on the side. They're working at $10, $11, $12 an hour jobs. I'm not talking to that.
Right.
You can do that. You should do that if you need to.
Right.
But there's Sean Whalen, who's a guy I follow. If you know Sean, he wrote a book called How to Make Shit Happen. He talks about the best resource you have is Google. You can Google, all right, how to sell furniture and be a millionaire at it. There's so many ways that you can make money in this
side hustles. Oh yeah,
right. And
especially now with digital. I mean, if this COVID year has not taught anybody anything, it's that you can't be dependent on going to a 9-to-5 job on someone else, and you got to take your own matters in your own hands.
Yeah.
Well, that's what spurred me on to do H60 Lifestyle. It's like, we kind of got a handle on this. Let's share it with the world what we're doing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think you got to take responsibility for where you're at, especially if it's not your fault. That's another thing I learned. You take 100% responsibility for where you're at, especially if it's not your fault. Because if it's not, especially if it's not your fault, meaning what? If somebody screwed you over in your mind, whatever, or even if it's true, that resentment, that will tear you up. it's affecting you more than it's affecting them. And that's where you need to cut the baggage and move forward. But there's just so many ways.
Dude, it's like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die.
Right.
I mean, 100%.
Horrible. And so, yeah, I think, but again, doing what I'm talking to you about, especially like with this last point, goes against the grain.
Yeah.
Because comfort, people find comfort. It's human nature to want to be comfortable, right? The problem with that is you look around, you go, all these people on the surface seem comfortable, but the majority of people, 8 out of 10 workers are living paycheck to paycheck. 80% of people are paying their bills from check to check, which means 8 out of 10 people you're going to see or talk or you converse with this week is not happy, basically.
Right, or they're faking it.
Or they're faking it. So you got to find other ways to be comfortable in your own self, and that's why just improving your lifestyle in all aspects and what we're trying to do here, you're going to see a ton of growth.
And it all builds off of too. So say you do start, say you want to lose 10 pounds with the program, and you do.
Yeah.
Well, that's like an anchor promise you made for yourself. You set a goal and you did it. Check.
Right.
Now what else can I do? I did this. Hey, I'm on a roll.
Yeah.
Let's get our financial house in order. Check. Hey, let's do this. Check. And you start making strides.
And I think the best way to do this, and this is it's a lot of people have used this example, but Sean Whalen basically talks about, or maybe it was Ed Milet, one of the two. Yep. How do you eat an elephant?
Oh yeah, one
bite at a time. The concept of all these things that Bryan and myself, Travis, and other people that will be here talking is, you can do it all, but you can't, and you're not going to get it all done in one day. So, right. But if you focus a little bit on 4 or 5 things each day, like eating healthy, getting to the gym,
little things that add up,
telling your wife or husband you love them, right? Yeah. And putting a few dollars away every day, self-improving.
It makes all the compound effort
adds up.
Yes.
I always say a few good hours equals a good day. A few good days equal a good week. A few good weeks a good month, and a few good months a great year. And a few years you've created a lifestyle.
100%.
So,
well, hey, if you guys, I know you guys probably got questions. JC's info is on our support staff,
yep.
support people page. You can write in, and I see them all the time. Unfortunately, we talk to each other all the time.
Right,
so,
yep.
And our wives know each other, so we can always get messages back and forth. And are you open? So say they had a question about this, or just a generic question. That's fine. But what if someone, they're not local? What if somebody wanted to set up a Zoom with you and have you consult and do individual? Like, it is an individual thing. Yeah. I mean, everyone's financial situation is. So if they needed you, are you available
Absolutely.
For that?
Yeah, I have the technology to communicate all across the country. I can help people in every state, all 50 states. So that's not an issue for sure. Reach out, and I'd love to help you in any way I can, and build that relationship and help you succeed.
And what we're going to do also is since you are local, you're right in my back door here. As people write in, and as this H60 Lifestyle evolves, we're going to get more audience questions. Then I think we can build another show or 2 shows off of these questions, and maybe do a 1-part, 2-part on structured things.
Absolutely, get more technical on it.
Yeah, I think that would be cool. So if you guys want something like that, let us know. We'll be more than happy to sit and do this.
Right.
All right. Well, hey, thanks for coming by, buddy.
You bet.
And you guys, thanks for hanging with us. I hope you got something out of this. You took notes, and as I said, if you got questions, we're here. This is our job. This is what we want to do. So take care. This is another episode of H60 Lifestyle, and take care and God bless. And I'll be talking to you soon.